Macau and the World Touring Car Championship finale 4 days earlier, perhaps feeling a little bit of time lag. So Bouchou in the Russian Age Racing Aston Martin, the first racing Aston Martin DBR9 in private hands, leading the field away. It's his third pole position, all of them outside of Europe, in Suhai, in Dubai and now in Bahrain. On the outside of the front row, though, the championship leaders Andrea Bertolini and Carl Wendlinger in the JMB Racing Red Bull Maserati number 15. Bertolini, the factory test driver. Jamie Davis in with Philip Pater, the 16 car, in third place, ahead of championship rivals Biaggi and Babini in the number 10 Maserati MC12. Pedro Lamy with Gabriele Gardel, another championship contender in the Lavra Ferrari with Scheider and Bartels. So the top 6 cars on the grid contain all 7 championship contending drivers, and it's a big busy field. Of course, middle of the week for Westerners, but this is the weekend in the Gulf States. And here in Bahrain, in the heat of the day, getting ready for the 11th, the deciding, the final round of the FIA GT Championship. Well, already the GT2 driver's title has been decided, and that in favour of Mike Rockenfeller and Mark Lieb. They are in the 66 Gruppe M Porsche, and they've out-qualified teammates Manu Collard and Tim Sugden in the sister car. The Spiker third in the GT2 category with Jeroen Brickemolen and Donny Crevels in that car, looking pretty strong last time out in Dubai. Perhaps a bit of a regenesis for that car. Vanina X with Renault Coupens and Bas Leinders in the Belgian Racing Vertigo. Streff also in the grid. So a variety of new cars and a whole set of new rules to ponder for 2006. But before that, we still have a championship to decide in 2005, and that car is probably not going to have too much of an effect on the championship, but it certainly looks as though they may be set for their first race win. One of the factors here in Dubai will be heat and driver fatigue. The other may well be fuel consumption, according to the teams. Can they all go on just 2 stops over the 3 hours? Some say not. Good looking 2x2 formation, and Bouchou gives it the big gun as Justin Keane further back in the Lister Storm, looking very tall these days, the much older development Lister Storm, just getting caught off the throttle there. But it's the Aston Martin leading the Ferraris, and in front of the Ferraris and the Corvettes, of course, the slew of Maserati, so recently hit with their recent restrictor weight and air problems to try and slow them down. Rest of the GT2 field streaking through, and it's Bouchou from Bertolini, the first of the Maseratis, and as with Dubai last weekend, a lot of dirt offline. So Bouchou with Bertolini going with him, and Jamie Davis straight up to third position as well. Davis looking very aggressive here, raced for the team last at Spa-Francorchamps in the 24 hours. Fabio Babini in 4th, Timo Scheider in 5th. Those are the 2 turquoise and black Maseratis, and Gabriele Gardel's car with Pedro Lamy, the number 11 car, in 6th position. So as Bouchou starts to stretch the legs of the Aston Martin DBR9, number 17 car firmly out front. And it's all blue cars. The Maseratis giving chase, the 2 Red Bull cars. Bouchou and Davis pulling away now from the Vitaphone Racing pair, and if that's going to be the way it goes for the remainder of what's expected to be, well, perhaps even more than 90 laps, then the Vitaphone Racing team may be in trouble. But here comes a challenge on Jamie Davis for 3rd place. Just 3 laps in, Fabio Babini taking the race to Davis, but Jamie strikes back on the return of the corner into the twisty stuff. He still has 3rd position. That's leaving Bertolini free to chase down the race leader, and of course Bertolini and Wendlinger come here as the points leaders. Very important for them to stay out of trouble, and if Jamie Davis can battle for 3rd place with the Vitaphone Racing team, then that will be great news for Bertolini. Further back, Mike Haseman's in 8th place behind Andrea Piccini in the Corvette. The Corvette normally so good in hot conditions on its Pirelli tyres, just not really finding the pace here in Bahrain at all. No problem with the pace though for the race leader Christophe Bouchou. nor for the number 15 JMB Maserati. The 16 car pulling up onto its tail, but with it is coming Babini's Vitaphone Racing number 10 car. And behind that, the number 9 Bartelsson Scheider car as well. And again, Jamie Davis under pressure from behind. This is lap 10. Heading towards lap 10. And the leader now starting to hit traffic. There's the second and third place cars. No, there is the second place car and third place car. Now there is a Maserati missing. Let's see if we can spot this again. There goes the Russian Age Racing Ferrari in the middle of the GT2 field, and only one Red Bull Maserati. That is correct. That is Jamie Davis, the West Countryman, in second place now. Third place Fabio Babini. So where are our championship leaders? Bertolini and Wendlinger, their car has disappeared from second place, and it's in the garage. And looking at that, that has got to be a transmission problem. Well, in fact, it must have been in the garage for a lap or so, because the team have clearly got the wheels off and starting to get the car stripped. And Joe Bertolini there seems to think that the game is up. 12 laps in then, Christophe Bouchou still leading by not much from Jamie Davis. And here comes Pedro Lamy. Now, how far behind is he? Timo Scheider behind Fabio Babini. Lamy, don't forget, not a championship contender, but his teammate Gabriele Gardel is. And that 550 Maranello was just absolutely awesome a week ago in Dubai. Lamy putting in the most astonishing last to first drive twice, coming back through the field in a remarkable race for the Labra team. And there's Luigi Moccia in the 74 Eddie Motors Porsche, currently lying in second position in the GT2 category, because there have been problems for Tim Sugden and Manu Collard's car early on. It's had some radiator problems and is already in the pits. Timo Scheider now behind Pedro Lamy, so Lamy has slipped by. And while the cameras are watching the GT2 cars, that change has happened. Christophe Bouchou leading by just 1.2 seconds from Jamie Davis. Jamie must fancy his chances, perhaps, of pulling off a win at the end of the season for the Maserati squad. Across the line they go. Proton Porsche ahead of them, and Bouchou with the lights full on and then giving them the big strobe flash to make sure that Gerald and Christian Reed's car is aware of his arrival. Pedro Lamy now past Timo Scheider's Maserati, the number 9 car, as the leaders work traffic. A little bit of tyre smoke in front of them, be a worry for Bouchou, somebody being a bit random with their braking there in the tail enders, but Bouchou keeping his head resiliently down. Davis chipping away though, another 0.4 of a second gone from the lead. It's down to less than a second. 19 laps into the race, and Christophe Bouchou with no breathing space at all. Jamie Davis perfectly poised to try and make an assault on the lead of this final 11th round of the FIA GT Championship in Bahrain. Thrilling battle for the lead, and the championship is now down to 5 drivers, not the 7 that started, as Wendlinger and Bertolini's car has spent far too long in the pits. It seems unlikely that it will now return to the track. ...22 laps into the final FIA GT race of the year. Mike Rockenfeller, GT2 leader. Second place, Luca Drudi's Ferrari 360 Modena. Wolfgang Kaufmann in third place in the Lamertink Racing Ferrari Porsche 996. And the Sugden and Collard 88 Grupper M car out early with radiator problems, hobbling their effort in the final race to win more than their teammates. Luca Drudi's Ferrari then in the pits. This is the 86 GPC car, sharing with Fabio Santinelli and Angelo Maselli. It looks like they have made their first fuel stop. Christophe Bouchou yet to stop out front with Jamie Davis now nearly 5 seconds behind, as the tyres have really come on strong when the fuel load has lightened on the Aston Martin. Seems that the Maserati is struggling a little for pace towards the end of the stint, towards the end of the first hour. Number 4, Conrad Celine. A little bit of smoke there from the right banker's cylinders, that looks like. There goes Pedro Lamy in the 11 car. And down pit road comes the first of the championship contenders, Timo Scheiders, Team Vitaphone Maserati MC12, coming in to hand over to Michel Bartels, and they will take fuel and tyres according to the team. Christophe Bouchou leading. Down the pit lane comes the number 4 car. More work for Franz Conrad to do on that one. He shares with Czech Adam Lacko and the Brazilian Antonio Herman Jr. And in fact, both Conrad cars coming down pit road. In is the 5 car as well, with Robert Lechner and Paolo Ruberti. Franz Conrad himself there, you see, at the rear car, with the familiar blue and turquoise colours on his helmet. And here is our race leader. 28 laps gone. Christophe Bouchou still being chased by Jamie Davis. One miscue by the Frenchman. Davis will be all over him again like a rash. Fabio Bobini in 3rd place in the Vitaphone Racing number 10 car. That's 2 yet to stop. And down the pit road comes a Russian-aged racing car. Lap 29, a huge lock-up. It is the lead Aston Martin. That was worrying moment there for Christophe Bouchou. Just got off the brake and modulated that big slide on the sandy run into the pits, and that's one of the features. Of course, it's very, very smooth polished concrete here, and with a little bit of loose sandy dust on it, that's bad news. In then gets Antonio Garcia, the Spaniard that also races for BMW in the World Touring Car Championship.
Good start, you kept the lead, but Jamie Davis was still behind you, fighting.
Yes, for sure, it's very close between the car, but my car is working very well, and we are just after 1 hour leading the race for 5 seconds, so it's very close for sure, but I have to drive again 1 hour, and I will push until the limit.
Christophe Bouchou will push hard. In comes the second Russian-age racing car. This, of course, the Russian-age racing Ferrari. Nikolai Fomenko and Alexei Vasiliev sharing that car. The number 18 machine. Going slowly, though. Very slowly coming out of the final corner. Maybe they have run it almost dry on fuel. Now, this is one of a couple of Care Racing Ferraris, so it's possible perhaps that they might have been experimenting with a fuel run to give some information to the Labra team. Who knows? Now then, Jack under the 66 car. What's going on here? Looks like the onboard air jacks have failed, and they are jacking the car up in the good old-fashioned, that's the way they do it in NASCAR still, despite all the technology that the world has developed way. And I suppose, generally speaking, hydraulic jacks don't fail, but that's going to make it a very slow pit stop and just add a little bit of work to Mark Lieb for his final race as a factory Porsche driver. Certainly his final FIA GT race, sharing with Mike Rockenfeller. Mark Lieb retiring at the end of this season from competition driving to go back and study as an engineer and then take up a job in Porsche, hopefully as a race engineer. A great career change. Will certainly give him an awful lot of insight into both aspects of motor racing. So Antonio Garcia leading then from Philip Pater, who's taken over from Jamie Davis. Thomas Biaggi in 3rd position, and Mark Lieb on track for the final time. Great young guy, really charming young man, very talented driver as well. And the Porsche factory team, I'm sure, will be glad not to be losing him permanently as a driver, yes, but once he has trained as an engineer, they will get him back at Weissach to develop, hopefully, a new range of Porsche sports races. So to the job in hand then, still a championship to be decided. Antonio Garcia leads in the Aston, not part of the fight. Philip Pater, 2nd place in the number 16 Maserati, also not part of the fight, but these cars are. There is the number 9 car, Michel Bartels, chasing Gabriele Gardel in the number 11, the red Care Racing owned and Labra competition run Ferrari. They are championship contenders. So is the car in front of them, the number 10 car. Oh dear, and that's the sister Labra car, the 12 car, getting in the way there. Steve Zakia, Raymond Narak and Roland Bredeville, the Swiss-French combo in there. And I should think there'll be a bit of choice language going on between the Maserati and the Ferrari. Well, the Ferrari seemingly not deliberately blocking, but very hard to get two big fast cars through that little S's that comes off the end of the straight together. So a little bit of breathing space for Gabriele Gardel. Michel Bartels will be absolutely fuming in the Vitaphone Racing Maserati and trying to catch. The Labra car 4th, the Vitaphone car 5th, and as they come down the back stretch, there is the Ferrari. Headlights on the Maserati. Here he comes, carving his way through the traffic. We'll have no problems with that. The GT2 Porsche a little further down the order. So Gardel has half the length of the straight, maybe a third of the length of the straight, but certainly he'll be able to see the shimmering of the headlights behind him in his mirrors. Not only a battle for 4th place, this is for the GT1 title at the moment. Gardel, if it finishes as of now, he would be champion. So a lot of pressure on Michel Bartels, an awful lot of pressure too on Gabriele Gardel. In the pits, a Vitaphone Racing car. Lap 53, Michel Bartels handing over to Timo Scheider. Now Gardel, of course, will continue to lead over that car until his pit stop. And the Labra team desperate to try and make it to the 2-hour mark before they stop. The Vitaphone team have accepted that they cannot do that without risking running dry, and that is not a risk to be taken when you're battling for a championship in the final race. So there are the two Vitaphone cars. Number 9 a lap down all but on the number 10 car now, because the 10 car has yet to stop. Antonio Garcia leads from Philip Pater, but Biaggi in 3rd, Gardel in 4th. There's the Corvette.
Gabriel is currently 4th. He needs to stay in front of the number 9 car in order to win the championship. How is it?
Well, it's looking difficult, but we are still in front, so we'll have to see until the end of the race, because they are very fast. They are a bit faster than us, but looks like that they have to stop one more time. So hopefully this happens, otherwise we have to push a bit harder now.
So you'll have a tough time for your stint.
Yes, I have a hard time again. I mean, I pushed very hard at the beginning. Gardel is doing a very good job now. It's going fast, and hopefully we can make it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So hopefully Pedro Lamy says they can make it on pace, and I think the understood subtext there is on fuel as well. Antonio Garcia leading the race for Aston Martin, and they seem just to be romping away without fuel worries either, or so it seems. Can they go the distance on 2 stops? Will they have enough in hand to make a comfortable splash and dash if they need a 3rd? Well, at the moment, Garcia carrying on the good work of Christophe Bouchut. Jamie Davis in 2nd place, Thomas Biaggi ahead of Gabriele Gardel, Bert Longin in 5th, Jean-Denis Delatraz in 6th position, but a lap down on the leaders. So at the moment, the number 11 car of Gabriele Gardel, he's at the helm in 4th place, one hand on the championship trophy, but it's the Aston Martin still that is ruling the roost here, running away in the 2nd stint with the race in Bahrain. Aston Martin Middle East DBR9 still leading the race here in Bahrain. Antonio Garcia on board towards the end of his middle stint. And in the pits, Christophe Bouchut rehydrating and getting ready to take over the car now as they head towards the relative cool of the evening. Sun dipping towards the horizon in the Gulf state of Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain hosting the 11th, the final title deciding round of this year's FIA GT Championship. And unfortunately, the Aston Martin, more of a latecomer, not able to be part of the championship battle this year. But next year, who can tell? Garcia then in the pits to hand over to Bouchou. Frenchman will take on new Michelin tyres and a full tank of fuel. Gabriele Gardel leading as Antonio Garcia walks away. The Ferrari yet to stop. In the pits though, Thomas Biaggi's number 10 Vitaphone Racing machine handing over to Fabio Babini. And now it seems, unless there are dramas and disasters ahead of them, they may, like Wendlinger and Bertolini, be out of the championship battle. So Fabio Babini and Thomas Biaggi, former champions both, but perhaps not this season. In GT2, Mark Lieb the race leader. Paolo Piri in second place, the 86 Ferrari. Luca Moro sharing with Wolfgang Kaufmann in the Lamatink Porsche in third place. There's Paolo Piri in the 86 car, the GPC car. The 360 Modena looking a little bit more of a prospect in terms of racing here. 97, the Lamatink car in the pits. Luca Moro handing over. Wolfgang Kaufmann doing the final stint in the car then. And the Ferrari continues to charge on. Very much left in the shadow, the private Porsches and Ferraris of the Gruppa M cars throughout the season. Gruppa M dominating GT2 with their drivers taking first and second in the Drivers' Championship. And indeed, behind the Ferrari right now, the familiar blue, white and red of Kenny Chen's Gruppa M team. And where will we see them racing next year? What will they be up to? We'll have to wait and find out. Gabriele Gardel into the pits then. Lap 59. Now then, crucially, Ferrari and Labra have managed to eke out 2 hours before they came in for their second pit stop. So, Pedro Lamy, can he make the fuel last? Can he keep the car in the position it needs to be? Will their rivals need a further stop? Will the 11 car need a further stop? There's the sister car, the 12 car, ahead of the 66 Porsche, at least for the moment. 12 car looks to be heading down pit road, and indeed it is. And in comes the Corvette behind it as well. So Mark Lieb still comfortably out front, heading for win number 6 of the season in the Gruppa M car. And that private battle with Manu Collard and Tim Sugden going to favour of Rockenfeller and Lieb. So 12 car is in the pits. Steve Zacchia will take over for the final stints. The 3 drivers sharing this one, doing roughly an hour apiece. The Franco-Swiss combo. So the number 11 car has been and gone. Number 12 car coming in. Lap later, but it was more than a lap down. So that's not so much of a surprise. So now the nervous waiting, the ceaseless calculations of weight of fuel used per lap and laps to go and lap times and potential, well, who knows, of maybe safety cars to save everybody's bacon in the closing stages. But on this wide Bahrain circuit so far, no real indication of major problems that might slow everybody down. Christophe Bouchou out front again in the Aston Martin. Scheider and Bartels at the moment ahead of Gabriele Gardel's teammate Pedro Lamy. Lamy in 6th place, Scheider and Bartels in the Vitaphone Racing Maserati, looking at the moment, if it were to finish thus, as though they take the championship. So seesawing fortunes all over the place. Leader moves through past the slower Ferrari, and now 24 seconds ahead of Jamie Davis. So the West Country driver will really get his head down and charge after Bouchou. Jamie won't mind that as a target any little bit at all. There'll be some while holding this camera shot before Jamie Davis comes into view. 24 seconds back at the beginning of the previous lap. That ain't him either. That was the 12 car. And no, the director, predictably enough, chickens out of holding a long empty shot, waiting for the second place car to come through. GT2 battle with the Heavy Motors Porsche chasing the second of the Ferrari 360s. That's the not the Pro competition car, the GPC car. No, JMB car, I beg your pardon, of Chris Buncombe and Lorenzo Case. And there is the 18 Russian Age Racing Ferrari 550. And right behind, here comes our second place man, Britain's Jamie Davis. Fastest lap of the race. Now 61 laps into the third hour. Temperature starting to drop a little, air becoming a little denser, giving it just a tad more power to the engine. Little easier life for the tyres as the track temperature starts to come down from the ridiculous to the merely vaguely silly. Closing in on the Russian Age Racing Ferrari. That's not the leader. Jamie will know that very well indeed. Down the straight, Maserati will have the legs on the Ferrari, and Jamie will certainly have it in the braking area. Flicking the lights on, those strobe effect lights really illuminate themselves very clearly in the driver's mirrors. And certainly the Certec team of Vasiliev and Fomenko not wanting to get in any way involved in the championship battle, allowing the Maserati to go through. The 16 car not a championship contender either, but Davis slicing 1.4 seconds out of Bouchou's lead on that lap. And that's a big margin. And I wonder if Bouchou is now having to start to just roll off the gas a little, maybe carry a little more speed in maybe a gear higher through the corner to try and preserve the fuel. So Jamie Davis with the hammer down. And it doesn't seem likely that that car will go all the distance, particularly at the pace at which Maserati is currently being driven. Definitely shades of Le Mans and Spa, aren't there, with the late evening shadows lengthening around the track. As they come down towards the final, or through the final corners, straight into the low sun. So Corvette there being chased down the straight. Really quite surprised to see the Corvette so far off the pace this weekend, just not a factor at all. That's really quite unusual. Anthony Kumper doing the final stint, Pedro Lamy closing in behind him, and Lamy carrying the hopes of Gabriele Gardel, so he will want to avoid tangling. He will be keen to get by and close in on the Maserati in front. That is the number 9 car of Timo Scheider. And it is that car that Pedro Lamy essentially needs to get by to stand any chance of Gardel winning the title. So first target then, step by step, let's take this, will be the Corvette of Anthony Kumpen. Kumpen, I'm sure, in his way as well, will also be aware of what's going on with the title race and that the 11 car is involved in it when he's not. Rockenfeller in the pits. Mark Lieb walking away from what may very well be his last ever factory Porsche race drive, certainly in his current guise. And Rocky will take the Gruppa M car to the flag. No dramas around the pit stop, away they go. So then the gap between the Corvette and the Ferrari is now down to nothing. And this will be as important as if it were a pass for the championship lead. Pedro Lamy can afford no miscues. Any damage here, any time off track, could be very detrimental indeed to Gabriele Gardel's championship hopes. And Lamy will be very well aware of that, having kept Gardel right in the fight with a storming couple of drives last week in Dubai. He won't want to make any mistakes here in Bahrain. Corvette coming down the back straight. Ferrari just inching closer and closer. And he may not want to, but he may well have to wait until they're on the straight, down past the main grandstands in front of the pits, to try and make his pass. Babini in 4th, Scheider in 5th. And 6th, the Corvette. And he turns across the bows of the Ferrari. Well, he's entitled to, I suppose, to argue the point about being 5th as opposed to 6th. But really, in the situation that everybody in every garage knew was coming into this race, that there are 7 drivers battling for the championship, then I think that was really unnecessarily ungentlemanly action by Anthony Kumpen. The Ferrari was down the inside. It was a 50-50 call. Of course he can defend it, that's his right. But frankly, is it any skin off his nose if the Ferrari goes by? What's the difference between 5th and 6th? Not a great deal. However, if he deliberately holds up the Ferrari and successfully holds up the Ferrari, it might be Anthony Kumpen rather than anybody actually involved in the championship that decides the title battle. And that, to me, doesn't really seem like the way that I'm sure most of the teams would like to see this championship decided. I think they'd all like to see a fair race, a close race, but a race that doesn't have any outside intervention. Again, Lamy tries down the inside. This time states his intentions clearly and early. But look at that. Behind them is the race leader, about to put a lap on the battle for 4th and 5th and 6th. That's an incredible turn of pace by the Aston Martin. And here he is now, up behind, past the Corvette, who is coming by the Vertigo Streff, and flashing his headlights. Oh, get out of my way. Perhaps somebody ought to point out to Kumpen that there isn't one rule for GT1 and one rule for everyone else here. So the Ferrari feeling the pressure. You saw the lockup from Lamy in the dusty stuff. And here comes the race leader. Down the inside, and Lamy will let him go. No point in fighting him, because he's already in 1st place. He can't go any more into 1st place or get any more points. And if Lamy tangles with him, as before, the same rule applies as with Kumpen. If you tangle and go off, that's it, championship's over. So Lamy 5th, Scheider and Bartel's car 4th, Babini and Biaggi's in 3rd, Bouchou in the lead, with Jamie Davis still trying to catch him from 2nd position. So the leader has now lapped up to and including the 5th place man. That's an absolutely determined turn of speed. But at the moment, Scheider and Bartels in the number 9 Maserati in 4th place will be champions if it finishes like this. As they are now, the Vitaphone Racing team will just clinch the championship. Mike Rockenfeller and Mark Lieb already clinched the GT2 drivers' title, and they lead the GT2 category in the final race again.
Take one world-famous stadium, build a racetrack in it.
In the final hour of the final race of the FIA GT Championship 2005, Christophe Bouchou's lead over Jamie Davis, 28 seconds now. Jamie Davis in the number 16 Maserati MC12, the JMB Red Bull car he shares with Philip Pater in this final round of the championship. And Bouchou leading this race in the opening stint from pole position, handing over to World Touring Car Race Antonio Garcia, who has not been racing in the championship for a short while with his World Touring Car duties. Has raced in the GT2 category, never one of the big GT1 cars before. 70 laps into the race then, and dusk certainly firmly approaching. There is the 2nd place car, Jamie Davis. Low sun just over the palm trees. Pit stop time again then for Timo Scheider's number 9 Maserati MC12. Fuel only. There is the splash and dash that they all feared was going to be necessary, and the Vitaphone Racing team have bitten the bullet relatively early to try and give themselves a chance to fight back. 72 laps into the race then. Around half an hour left. So now then, who else in this game of fuel chicken? Jamie Davis comes back out. He too has been in from 2nd place. Well, not surprising perhaps. He was certainly not in economy drive mode, rattling off the fast laps, trying to chase down leader Christophe Bouchou. As he spent the first hour, so he will spend the last, hounding the Aston Martin out front, and he of course will hope that the Aston Martin needs fuel. One of the Conrad cars has just come back out from fueling as well. So how many more of the big cars? And the Aston does need to come in. Here is our race leader. And again, this will be a fuel-only call. We saw it take on fresh tyres when Christophe Bouchou got in its second pit stop. The Certec team, Rob Shell, bringing the car in for a final dose of fuel. Last few kilos of fuel going on board. And away goes Bouchou. Almost a miscue away from the pit box. Vital not to get pinged for speeding at this stage of the race, with the Aston's first win in the GT Championships in Certec's privateer team hands on the cards. So Bouchou heading back out. Maserati right behind is the number 9 car. We've seen that one has been in the pits. Now then, this is interesting. Here comes Pedro Lamy and Fabio Bobini, both yet to stop. And this then the battle for, well, third place perhaps, but certainly for the championship. Lamy having a look. Bobini will have to defend this, but again, they must both be very cautious here. This is not the first race of the season, this is the last. They must be cautious not to have contact that will damage the cars. Bouchou and Davis then still shown as being ahead. Bobini and Lamy. Now Lamy, as you can quite clearly see, ahead of Bobini. Timo Scheider's 9 car down in 6th position. But what about the fuel stops? Where will that leave the rest of the field? Yet to stop then, Pedro Lamy. Yet to stop also the Maserati right behind him. And at the moment, if it finishes this way, Gabriele Gardel becomes champion. So it seesaws backwards and forwards. Lap 75, Bobini down the inside, back up to 3rd place. And so the championship swings in the balance. These two cars dicing it out in the final hour of a near 55-hour season. And it does seem, doesn't it, that this championship will be settled by seconds, if not fractions of seconds, rather than even as much as a lap over an entire season of racing. And of the 7 drivers that came here, will it be 1 or 2 that take the championship? If it's with the Ferrari, it'll be Gardel on his own. If it's with the Maserati teams, it'll be a 2-driver championship. There you see Luigi Moccia, 3rd place to Luca Drudi and Mike Rockenfeller in the GT2 category in the Heavy Motors Porsche. But again, look at Lamy in traffic, trying to take advantage. Just gone past the Proton Porsche. And another Porsche in front. Can he box up the Maserati? He's flashing the lights, hoping that the Porsche will be confused perhaps, or at least awake, because neither of these cars can afford to fall over a back marker. Bobini 0.3 across the line ahead of Pedro Lamy. Porsche locks up behind. What a thrilling way to end the season. And there is our race leader, the number 17 car. The Aston Martin still out front. And less than 10 minutes left, down into the final 9 minutes now of the season. Christophe Bouchou, lights on, and almost needing them at this stage. Jamie Davis still in 2nd place and still 40 seconds adrift. And Bobini and Lamy battling for 3rd, battling for the title ahead of Anthony Kumpen. Well, Bouchou with a decent advantage. He has stopped, Jamie Davis has stopped. No more fuel consideration surely to take into consideration, to take into account in this battle. And heading towards the end of the season at breakneck pace, Christophe Bouchou. Jamie Davis trying to bring the gap down. Christophe Bouchou responding to the challenge. It seems the Aston has got everything covered here. So Bouchou on the last lap of Bahrain, the last lap of race 11 in the FIA GT Championship, the last lap of the season. Aston Martin, that won its first FIA GT race in the Centenary Tourist Trophy at Silverstone. The factory Aston Martin racing cars run by ProDrive, not registered for the championship though. Here, the Surtec team with their privateer Russian age racing entry look as though they have a win on their hands for the Aston Martin Middle East team. Antonio Garcia sharing the drive with Christophe Bouchou. And he had great effort in the middle stint. Checkered flag, victory it is then for Christophe Bouchou. And the championship will have to wait for another minute or so. There is Rob Scherl and the Aston Martin Middle East representatives, the Russian age racing guys, looking happy on the pit wall. But what about the championship? Let's get down and catch up with driver Antonio Garcia.
You must be over the moon.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really good race. No problem at all. His first thing was okay. My second one, I think, was also really good. And I think we built up a lot of gap, and then was just to maintain this gap.
You had a great stint. You were lapping in 157, 156. You did really well for your first time in the car.
Yeah, I think I get used really rapidly to this car, and I think I was really comfortable to build up all this gap we made, and I'm really happy about it.
Robin.
So the win then goes to Bouchou and Garcia. Davis and Philip Pater in second place, with the Corvette in third. And the championship is in the balance.
Gabriel, well done. Champion this year. Amazing, amazing job you did.
Yeah, we worked really hard, we worked really good. We were a little bit lucky. Pedro did the last of the part of this race and the season wonderful. We worked really good, and we have to thank Michelin for the big support, ProDrive and everybody. The guys did a wonderful job today.
You did well to keep Michael behind you during your stint.
Yeah, this was my job, and the job was also to try to control, the position, don't get any risk, because my position, we have just to stay in front of this Maserati. We were lucky about the 15. I don't know what happened, but race. So I'm really happy. I don't know what to say right now.
Well done. We'll see you at the podium. Well done.
Thank you.
So the 15 car, Bertoli and Wendlinger out, but also post-race scrutineering several hours after the race showed that the Gabriele Gardel car did not have the regulation 3 litres of fuel left for sampling. He is the champion at the moment under appeal only. We may need to wait weeks, possibly even months, for a judgment on who actually wins the 2005 FIA GT Championship in the GT1 class. At the moment, Gabriele Gardel, the man who morally has the victory, but will he keep it? Well, that's it from another thrilling FIA GT Championship on Eurosport. The championship starts again next year at Bucharest in Romania. More battling, more racing through hours and hours of exciting sports car action. Meanwhile, from me, Martin Haven, the rest of the Eurosport production team from the 2005 season, bye for now.